Good morning. We've worked through quadratic equations from the very basic all the way through to solving them with the quadratic formula, solving them by completing the square, solving them by finding factors. And now we get to the point where we need to look at what techniques to use in a test or in an exam, because that's where things seem to fall apart a little bit. So my advice is always, whenever you look at a question, just analyze it quickly. Analyze what you've got, analyze what the possibilities are, and then proceed from there. I think under exam pressure and fear of not finishing in time and fear of your mind going blank and all sorts of things, sometimes we just dive in before we even give any thought to something. So if we look at this question that I've put here, it looks fairly straightforward, and if you're under pressure and having a bit of a panic, you might look at it and think, oh, thank goodness, the factorization has been done for me already. I just have to set each bracket equal to 0 and not look at the fact that that is not a 0, and so therefore it is not the way that you're going to be able to proceed. So it looks like a very simple question. But in order to work this out and then to decide what we're going to do, we need to eliminate the brackets. Remember, in an equation, whether it's a linear equation or a quadratic equation, and sorry about the helicopter, we need to eliminate brackets if there are brackets, and we need to eliminate denominators if there are denominators. So having brackets, we need to first of all multiply them out. So with our firsts, we're going to get x squared. By this stage, you should be doing the outers and the inners at the same time. So I've got negative 2x plus 4x gives me plus 2x. And my last, positive 4 times negative 2, give me negative 8. And I'm not going to waste time. In the same step, I can already see I've got a quadratic equation, so I'm going to be putting all the terms on the one side and the other side equal to 0. So I'm going to bring this straight across and not wait for the next step. Remember, you're trying to do not too many things in one step, but as many as you can, and that will also give you an advantage with your time. So just tidying that up a little bit. Negative 8 plus 7 is negative 1 equals 0. So if you weren't caught out here, not noticing the 0, and you've got down to this point, it might look all beautiful and simple, and it might at first glance look to you like a perfect square trinomial. But a perfect square trinomial would have a positive sign there. So this actually can't factorize. If you think of the factors of 1, we've got 1 times 1. Can 1 and 1 give me 2? Yes, they can if I'm adding, but that's telling me that I have to subtract the factors to get 2. And there's no ways that 1 and 1 subtracted can give me 2. So now I've got to, the second thing that looked deceptively simple, but actually you need to be awake and see that it's not what it might appear to be. So I just want to add on at this stage that this kind of question could very well say to you, solve for x and leave the answer in third form. So often they'll put that at the top, on the question, and if they put that on the question, then you've got a very, very good chance that you're going to be using the quadratic formula, because third form means the form where you've got a root in the answer. I didn't say that at the beginning because I wanted you to think through this process first, but we are going to end up with an answer in third form, because with this not being able to factorize with factors, we now need to go to the quadratic formula. So writing down our quadratic formula first. And I suggest you always write it down first, because then it's right in front of you and you're not going to be trying to think what am I substituting into what. It's right there in front of you. Some people, and really it's entirely up to you, some people would like to say that A is equal to 1, B is equal to 2, and C is equal to negative 1, but that's not necessary. But if you are a person who tends to make little silly mistakes, then do that so that you've got it clearly in your mind. So B is 2, so negative B will be negative 2, plus or minus. B squared is going to be 4 minus, I'm going to do this quickly in my head because it's such a simple one. Minus 4ac means minus 4 times 1 times negative 1. So the negative times the negative is going to give me a positive, and 4 times 1 is going to give me 4. 2a, 2 times 1 is just going to leave me with 2. So what I've got in effect is the square root of 8 over 2. So at this point you can just punch that into your calculator and it will simplify it for you. But I want to just go back to basics, and it's always good to just make sure you really understand all of the things. Sometimes things crop up where you actually need to understand the basics and you can't just punch it into the calculator. So let's just keep those skills going. So in my square root sign, I'm going to break 8 up into a perfect square number times another number. So 4 times 2 is 8. And then that will allow me to say the square root of 4 is 2. That can't be square rooted. So that's where my third answer is going to come from. And it's all over 2. Then I want to simplify that a little bit because I see I've got a 2 in that term and a 2 in that term and a 2 in the denominator. So I'm imagining putting the first term over the denominator. Negative 2 divided by 2 will be negative 1. And then the second term over the denominator, the 2's will cancel and I'll be left with root 2. If you're not sure what I did over there, you could have put in an extra step where you're breaking these two terms up and giving them each their own denominator. So as you can see, 2 divided by 2 is 1. Those 2's will cancel and you're left with plus or minus the square root of 2. So the other thing you could have looked at the beginning with this question, there's lots of little clues for test technique that you can look at. If you saw that question and your first impression was, oh, it's so easy, look at the mark allocation. And I'm telling you now, the mark allocation for this wouldn't have been like 2 marks because you're ending up having to do that, and then you're ending up having to realize it's a quadratic formula, etc., etc. So look at mark allocation, and yeah, and then also just all the things I've mentioned, look carefully, analyze. I just feel if you analyze the actual question and take 10 seconds to look at what's actually in it, it can alleviate lots of silly mistakes. So there is your solution for X, and I will be posting a few of these types of questions that are put into tests and exams to really find out if you know what's going on, and we'll work through them together. So please click on that subscribe button. That will allow me to keep making more and more videos, as many as I possibly can, and I hope with exams coming up that these sorts of things are going to help. Thank you for watching.